Another one of those appalling corporate taxpayer leeches, by which I really mean rock-solid net zero EV initiatives, has just issued a brand new press release highlighting the breathtaking economic fraud that is free EV charging. And the bottom line there, unless the taxpayer, i.e. you and me, unless the taxpayer pays for it, and no, dude, we typically do not get consulted, do we? Unless we pay for it, the whole freaking thing makes about as much economic sense as communism. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au, new cars cheap, but Australia only. Website, come on! An EV charging company called Jolt, you may have heard of it, has just convinced the New South Wales government to open its fly and urinate sufficient taxpayer dollars all over Sydney to fertilise 65 free EV chargers for the poor downtrodden inner city dwellers who just can't charge at home. In electric utopia, dude, that's poverty. You, the electric utopian, you get a free parking spot outside the shops and you can tip in up to 7 kilowatts of taxpayer-funded electricity for free using taxpayer-funded infrastructure. What a victory for society. Meanwhile, on Earth, I would argue that this is, for the community broadly, a shit sandwich. Minus the bread. Obviously, if this were a sound commercial proposition, like a viable business idea, Jolt could just roll this out on its own like a proper business, sans taxpayers' support, and make millions in profit before, I don't know, listing on the stock exchange, and then the founders could all retire with their 7th wives or something to the Bahamas. Unfortunately, it's just not that solid as business ideas go, so they have to cloak the whole bullshit idea in green virtue while hooking up to the Treasury with an industro-spec vacuum cleaner set to full suck. The key benefit of Jolt's proposition is free charging of up to 50 kilometres of driving range per day, easing cost of living pressures with approximately $1,200 in savings per year. Pro tip, you weapons-grade Jolt bullshitters. EV owners just stumped up, I don't know, more than 50 grand typically for their EV, didn't they? And thus, they do not experience cost of living pressures in the way battlers do. They just frickin' don't. Because a car is the ultimate discretionary purchase. If you haven't got the spare funds, you just don't buy one, dude. They don't experience cost of living pressures because they just drop 50 grand or more on a fucking car. They can thus afford the caviar and the mortgage payments, the designer shoes, whatever. They certainly don't need taxpayers subsidised anything. So I've got a better idea. How about the state government just add, I don't know, $5,000 in tax on every EV specifically for the development of appropriate charging infrastructure. User pays. That seems fair. EV owners can afford to charge their EVs. What is specifically immoral and unprincipled, unethical about this particular arrangement is that minimum wage earners who really are struggling to make ends meet, working the night shift in aged care or spending 8 hours a day plucking in a chicken processing fucking plant, are funding the free Jolt charging experience for a conga line of rich, virtuous twats earning 150k a year or more in the inner city just because they lack off-street parking. The poor, disadvantaged darlings. Plus, of course, in part, the taxpayer is paying the salaries of everyone who works at Jolt. Because I'm tipping they're not doing this for free. I'm old-timey like this, I admit it, but this whole arrangement seems preposterously unethical to me. This report is sponsored by NordVPN. Get 4 extra months of Nord for free now, plus a huge discount at nordvpn.com/AEJC. Online security threats and scams are everywhere, but you don't have to be the next victim. That's where NordVPN comes in. Nord does the stuff that you and I don't really understand in the background, hiding your IP address, locking everything down. Go to nordvpn.com/AEJC now. Your exclusive Auto Expert discount is huge right now, plus you're going to get 4 extra months completely free. nordvpn.com/AEJC. I'll put a link in the description. Just subscribe, download the app and connect. One click later, your IP address is shielded and your online traffic is heavily encrypted across as many as 6 of your devices. Nord is the fastest VPN on the planet. It costs only about as much as 1 cup of coffee every month to keep your data, your identity and your devices secure. Masking your location means you'll also get access to streaming and other services that might be blocked where you live. Plus, you can continue to watch your favourite content when you travel. You might even be able to score some great online travel deals that are unavailable where you live. Go to nordvpn.com/AEJC now. Boost your security and enjoy that huge discount plus those extra 4 months completely free. It's totally risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/AEJC. Link in the description. According to Jolt, and here the hits just keep on coming, Climate Change and Energy Minister Penny Sharp, whose ministerial car is electric, said the grants were part of a $209 million commitment into charging infrastructure. Whose ministerial car is electric? Of freaking course. Who gives an actual flying fuck what kind of car the minister drives? Except that the taxpayer paid, I don't know, at least $20,000 more for it than they would have had to pay for an equivalent combustion or hybrid car. Here are the official words Ms. Sharpie vomited in response to the latest bilateral Jolt taxpayer reach around. This investment will significantly increase the availability of public charging options and give people confidence their next vehicle purchase can be an EV. Almost 30% of New South Wales drivers do not have access to private off-street parking to charge an EV. That figure is considerably higher in metro areas. We will continue to roll out EV charging grants to further support the New South Wales goal of being the easiest place in Australia to own and drive an electric vehicle. Alternatively, the frickin' government could help the disadvantaged and just let market forces work out electrification for the rich without committing the lowest paid workers in our society to funding the green masturbatory fantasy of net zero for inner city dwellers. At this point, let us see how this novel idea would actually work when rolled out across electric utopia. I know it's kind of verboten to run the numbers on these green fantasies, but hey, let's just fucking run them anyway and see what falls out. Now, according to the government, there's about 5.5 million drivers here in New South Shitsville. So that would be roughly 1.7 million drivers who cannot access at-home charging, according to the minister, who obviously would never bullshit the public about anything quite as important as this. Assuming 15 minutes seems reasonable per 7 kilowatt hour taxpayer-funded Jolt, that would be 4 charges per hour per charger. So that's 4 times, let's call it 12 hours a day of utilisation. That's still pretty generous, right? Because EV charger reliability is emphatically shit. Like at any one time, roughly a third of all EV chargers is down for the count, right? Any more than that, any more than 2/3 of uptime is out fucking standing for an EV charging network. Just ask California. And also because people have to sleep. So I'm tipping 3 a.m, not that utilised. Anyway, that's about 50 vehicles per charger per day, each copying a 50k 7 kilowatt hour taxpayer-funded Jolt. 1.7 million poor, virtuous, green darling twats who can't charge at home. Modern poverty. Divide by 50. That's quite difficult. 1.7 million divide by 50. In your head, dude. You'd have to be conscious at school to be able to do that. Jesus. Nobody expected that when you were a kid, did they? That's 34,000 charges minimum, assuming ideal geographic distribution and the utilisation model, which was very fair, that I just laid out. 65 whole charges in this announcement, so what's that? 33,935 to go, and that 7 kilowatt hour taxpayer funded free, that's about 10 minutes, isn't it, of actual charging. So I allowed 5 minutes for fucking around at each end of the Jolt, you know, hooking up, using the app, going out for a coffee, running late and getting abused by the 10 very important Model 3 owners who are queued up behind you, who are also running late for work and don't really appreciate you spending, I don't know, 90 minutes shopping for frickin' shoes while you were plugged in or something. So, in electric utopia, just for New South Shitsville, just for the poor green virtuous darlings who can't charge at home but want a totally impractical EV anyway when they could have just bought a freaking hybrid. Because for those people, there needs to be 34,000 taxpayer-funded EV fast chargers drawing 50 kilowatts apiece for 40 minutes roughly every hour, if the system is used efficiently. That's 1.7 taxpayer-funded gigawatts of generation that needs to happen to power inner-city teal twats who can't charge at home because that's such poverty. Anyway, this, I would argue, is the very definition of unsustainable. Curbside charging is critical to the transition to electric vehicles in Sydney, and providing fast, free charging to those who do not have access to off-street charging is Jolt's goal for this program. Jolt provides charging infrastructure at zero cost to councils while providing 7 kilowatt hours or up to 50 kilometres driving range free for EV owners in the community each day. Doug McNamee there, Jolt's CEO. Can you imagine him actually just standing up and ad-libbing that statement? Because I certainly can't. I'd suggest that zero cost to the councils is not really the same thing as zero cost to the taxpayer, is it? And I'm a taxpayer and you're a taxpayer, so it's kind of relevant to us, I'd suggest. He's just taking money from the poor and giving it to the wealthy, therefore, and, of course, giving a little to themselves at the same time. So, well done there. Real victory for societal ethics, I'd suggest, in a parallel universe where nothing makes sense. It's not free charging, it's taxpayer funded. Jolt is the exact opposite of Robin fucking Hood. Like, draw me the diagram that repudiates this assessment. And CEOs can never shut up, which is so much fun. Have you noticed? With this funding, the government has prioritised the need for curbside charging, which is going to be a vital component of EV transition in Sydney. For those people who lack easy charging options at home, this gives them the ability to reliably own an EV. Only most people don't want to own an EV. Look at the vehicle sales. Most people are quite happy with a ute or a diesel SUV. That's Australia. The data is in, dude. EVs will never be more than about 1/3 of all the cars out there on the road. If the future is anything alternative, it is hybrid. And this business about, quote, to reliably own an EV, really to reliably own. Dear Jolt professional communicators, don't split the fucking infinitive. It always sounds so amateur. Except if you are one exceptional man. Only the shat may split the infinitive. Dude. I therefore call on Jolt Boy and his PR team to boldly go and empower inner city masturbators with the bullshit gift of reliable taxpayer-funded EV ownership, whatever. But do so without offending the shat with usage of the language reserved exclusively for him. I love the shat. I pray to the shat every evening now, and he answers my prayers roughly as often as Jesus used to. And this explains to me, at least, rather a lot about who's actually pulling the levers upstairs in the control room of the universe, at least in my estimation. How does this work in practice today? Okay, well, there's a giant Jolt charger, a real streetscape abomination in Bungan Street, Mona Vale. That's part of Sydney, if you're not from around here, on the northern beaches. It's right outside some shops, some fairly upmarket ones for the northern beaches. Jolt is quite proud of it. It's right there on the About Us page of their website, with a woman in black using it, who looks as if the future frickin' King of England has just popped the question. Look at it, dude. Like, that is a woman standing in the street, plugging in, experiencing unbridled pleasure. Who knew a Jolt could be that much fun? The locals hate it, apparently. Like, not pleasure, dude. They're okay with pleasure. They hate the Jolt abomination in the street. In fact, the whole thing boiled over on Nine's Radio 2GB at that exact location on the 16th of November last year. Everyone seems to have forgotten, but it was quite hilarious. Jolt's single charger abomination there is half a freaking shipping container pretending to look like public dunnies standing there in front of a bunch of otherwise upmarket shops, and apparently it just kind of teleported in one day, roughly a year earlier. So on the radio, this caller, Cameron, rings in and calls it a, quote, massive eyesore. I thought it was a toilet block. His giant grey box is in the middle of Mona Vale. It's a bizarre thing. It's been there for 12 months and I've never seen a car being charged there. That sounds about right, Camo. In one sense, it is actually a giant toilet block, inasmuch as it appears to be taking a giant dump on the New South Shitsville taxpayer who paid for it on behalf of Jolt, who installed it on behalf of insufferable rich electric utopian twats on the northern beaches who lack off-street parking. #poverty. The Jolt taxpayer electric toilet block was located dead in front of a business that called itself Leisure's Shoe Boutique. Imagine signing the friggin' lease, dude, paying for a whole fit-out of your premises, and then having a giant Jolt toilet block installed just outside, offering you an unexpected total eclipse of the potential customer. One of the shoe shop's employees called into the radio and told the station it was leading to a loss of business. Go figure. I just went to Google Maps just today and had a look at the Mona Vale Jolt electric toilet block as it stands in the street right now, according to Street View. The same one depicted with the future Princess of Wales on a pleasure juggernaut on Jolt's website. The impact on potential customers might have been quite significant for that shop. The former shoe shop appears to be for lease now. Who would have thunk it? Now, you could probably snap it up dirt cheap right now, just thinking this could be a real opportunity for you. Just right, if you want to start your own secret shoe shop on the northern beaches. And to me, this is the future nightmare hellscape of electric utopia, where the poor fund the rich to be virtuous, and they encourage local councils to climb ever higher up to the summit of Bullshit Mountain, while greenwashed corporate leeches concoct economically unsustainable scams while clipping the frickin' taxpayer-funded ticket as they shovel your money into a giant electric incinerator. So what if a few legitimate small businesses have to go under the bus? Obviously, one cannot make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. And the only problem with this proposition that I can see is, where's the fucking omelette?